Welcome to channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to our channel and turn on a little bell on the side, just like that. So once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Alright, now today's video, I will continue on with the introductory of how study abroad in a particular city of Australia is like. So we are now into Western Australia, where it's a very not as popular as the eastern border of Australia, but is still considered by a lot of people, where they prefer Perth as the city to actually have their international education done. Now, I had always had this. Now, personally, I have never been to Perth. I would like to go there one day once this the international and travel restriction has been lifted. I found that some of the people and friends and clients who have been in Perth, they basically in love there. I'm not saying that they haven't been to the eastern border of Australia, so Gold Coast, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, you name it. But when people go to Perth, if they love Perth, they will always love to be there. There's such a magical things which attracted me, obviously, very attractive, where it brings me the interest that I want to visit there one day. Now let's go to the Google map and take a look of how Perth is about. So obviously Perth, if you look at the whole map, it's on the western side of the Australian continent as a country there. Now, obviously, it's facing Indian Ocean, rather than traditionally most of the cities in the eastern border are facing the actual Pacific Ocean. So a little bit of different in. Even if you look at the geographically, eastern border has more greening size, so that means all the forests, forest trees there. But interestingly, Western Australia doesn't have much green as per. It's like the eastern border. Now, one major thing: Western Australia is the largest state. By ways of its area, the region is the largest, comprises of Australia. So as you can see, the whole west is all Western Australia, and that's no brainer for them. Now it's one of the major mining and agricultural state in Australia. So you can see that all that through, if we go into second northern part of the Western Australia, they are majority or mining areas. It's well, obviously I haven't been there, but reading through geographic and a lot of news article, we know that the northern part of the whole region of Western Australia is all about mining. Now, bear in mind, it's not just mining there, but the southwest area is where Perth, the capital city of Perth, is located. It's very rich environment there. Now, the first thing about Western Australia is that it doesn't have time zone differences between Western Australia and the majority of Asia countries. So that's one of the advantage for a lot of Asian migrants to actually be there, and also people traveling from Singapore, Malaysia and India. It's actually very, very near. It's considered possibly about 2/3 of the traveling time compared to traveling from Eastern Asia, from those Singapore, India and places there. So that's one of the popularity there. And I also know that in Western Australia, there are a lot of migrants coming from South Africa. So there are actually a lot of friends coming from South Africa. They migrate from South Africa to Australia, and the first destination is Perth. Now, don't know why it's actually pointing to New University in Western Australia. Anyway, but that's the first destination that I always go. So let's go into the actual city of Perth. So it's very it doesn't have a large port or harbour like Sydney or Melbourne or South Australia, Adelaide. They have the big harbour there, but it's more. If we look at how it developed, it's more like how Brisbane is like. As you might notice that Brisbane does have Brisbane River as well. Now, in Perth, there is a river, but it's not called Perth River. It's Swan River. It's very, very famous there. There's a lot of there's some vineyards and things coming from Swan River. Very rich, and it's split into one at the north and one in the south. That is where how the city has been enriched by the river, and how all the development has been going all around Swan River. So obviously at the end of the Swan River, or not end, but almost to the end, you actually see Perth Airport there. It's very close to the actual city in compared to all the other city that we have been through together. For example, Sydney, at the airport is in southern side, and Melbourne's airport, it's quite a distance away from the city, and also Brisbane's airport, it's quite a distance away. It need to the travel time, it's quite long compared to the airport of Perth, which is almost like in the city, as you can see there. Now obviously the cost of accommodations in food, transportations. Let's cut the transportation first. Food accommodation, it's actually better compared to the eastern side of the Australia. It does have its own resources there in Perth. The transportation wise, it's better to actually have car. As I had a lot of friends in Perth. I'm not too sure, but if you're from Perth, you've been living in Perth, you might want to leave a comment right down. But how is the transportation there in Perth? Is it convenient to travel by train, convenient to travel by bus, or perhaps car? Having your own car is the best way to do that. A lot of my friends are saying, look, in Perth you really have to have your own car. The public transport is actually much dearer compared to the eastern border or the cities of eastern borders. So that's what we know and what we learn about it. So obviously you can see that the University of Western Australia is right in the middle of the not in the CBD, but on the side of the Botanic Garden, and it's actually at the side of the Swan River. It's almost like Queensland University of Technology and University of Queensland. They're all at the side of the river. So obviously that whole region there, as you can see, that's all University of Western Australia. So that's the largest uni that we can find in Western Australia. So and we also have Curtin University. It's actually, I think it's right opposite there. Here we go. It's the opposite side of University of Western Australia, but it's not right at the river, although it does have some river front, which is at the southern border there. But that's where the Curtin University is. There's also Edith Cowan University. It's a bit far from the CBD of Perth, so let's have a look. Yeah, where's the CBD? CBD is down there. Okay, see that? That's a bit of the distance there from the CBD. Now that's from that distance, all I can say is that distance is more like the distance of all the airport of Adelaide, Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne, in conjunction to the CBD. But as you can see, that the airport with the Perth CBD is actually closer than where Edith Cowan is. Interestingly, how that was propose of the city development there. But anyhow, that's just a little bit of differences. There's no right or wrong there, but that's the first thing I noticed. That. What else? There's also Murdoch University. Let's see where it is. Okay, it's south side of the CBD of Perth CBD. So Perth is right there, and Murdoch Uni, and you can see that there's also the TAFE, Western Australia TAFE is also there as well. Now there's one more uni that I wanted to share with you guys. It's at the of Notre Dame. Here we go. Where is it? All right, it's right. You can actually see the ocean. That's where the university is. Okay, so and that's traditionally a lot of airport will be placed in somewhere like, you know, this kind of geographic region. But anyhow, that's just a little bit different of how the Perth is structured. No wonder a lot of time when they have elections, they want to go independent for whole Western Australia. But anyway, we can see that most of the majority of the unis in Western Australia is all surrounded around the CBD as well. There are some regional campuses, but that's not what we are introductory to this. So I take a little bit of different approach to traditional going into photographs and video, because those things are always I mean, that's nothing wrong there, but they always make it so beautiful. But I take a little bit of different approach by utilizing Google Map to actually introduce how Western Australia and the city of Perth is all about, and your international education life could be like in Perth. So the advantage there is time zone differences. It's there's no time zone differences between Perth and majority of Eastern Asia, and the travel time back to Asia, back to India, and even to South Africa, it's actually the distance is shorter. And one thing I found out, that people been there, they love there, they don't want to go anywhere else, and there must be some sort of secret in Perth. Anyhow, that's for our video today. Do you love and do you like Perth, and would you consider to study in Western Australia? Why don't you leave a comment right down below, and I see you next video. Goodbye.